My name is Frank Sutter, and I want to thank you for consulting me. Medicare is not a fun topic, and I hope to make this time investment worth your while. Today, I'm going to lay out a basic overview of why Part D coverage is so complicated, so you'll understand why it's so critical to consult a professional. There are three aspects of Part D coverage which make it complicated, and here they are. Number one, prescription drug coverage occurs in four phases: the deductible phase, the coverage phase, the coverage gap, and catastrophic coverage. Number two, prescription drug coverage is implemented within what the private insurance companies call tiers, which is insurance jargon, and it just means the way each drug is covered. Number three, drugs are covered in different ways in different geographic areas. The last one, the geography, will only have an impact if you change your geography by moving. But if you do end up moving, you may end up finding out that the drug coverage is significantly different in your new location. So let's take a look at these one at a time. First, the four phases of prescription drug coverage. The first phase of prescription drug coverage is the deductible phase, and this is a common practice in the insurance industry. The theory behind a deductible is to set a threshold that some people will never reach. For these people, their coverage will never kick in, but their medication expenses are quite low anyway. You should know that the Part B deductible is a figure that is so low that it's easy to meet your deductible in most cases within the first medication purchase, or at least in the first month. The second phase is the coverage phase, and this is really the only part that the insurance company covers for you. It has a beginning point and an end point, and you can find these points on my website. I would include those dollar figures in this video, but the dollar figures are subject to change periodically, and that would require me to remake this video each year. It's much easier to change the dollar figure on my website. It is during the coverage phase that the insurance company will pay part of your prescription drug expense in accordance with their formulary. I'll get into that in a second. The third phase of prescription drug coverage is called the coverage gap, but most people know it as the donut hole. The donut hole kind of happened by accident. It was not anyone's intention, but it was the product of the legislative process and how these drug protection schemes were created. There is good news here, and that is that the donut hole is closing. But once again, this is an entire topic by itself, and I will cover it in another video. The fourth phase is called catastrophic coverage. There are, thank our good Lord, a very small number of people who have astronomical drug costs. They are on medications that are horrendously expensive, and frequently they take more than one horrendously expensive medication. It is these individuals who go through the deductible, the coverage phase, and the coverage gap in a very short time, and are left with many months remaining in the year and no more coverage left. It is to assist these people that catastrophic coverage was devised. At some point, as determined by an out-of-pocket dollar figure, and again, the dollar figure will be on my website, the government takes over these costs, and the individual is responsible for a very small copay. So that's the first complication, coverage phases. The second thing that makes Part D coverage complicated falls within the coverage phase. It's the way in which medications are covered by insurance companies. Every year, each private insurance company creates a formulary. Usually they create several formularies, actually. Once again, the word formulary is insurance jargon for a listing of covered drugs. You need to know, first of all, that no insurance company covers all prescription drugs. I don't even know if that's possible. But if it were, it would be way too complicated. Formularies are a topic for discussion all by themselves. But the essential thing you need to know here is that during the coverage phase, the tiers that the insurance company places its covered medications on will determine how much you pay for them. Let's start with the idea that all drugs will be covered equally. That just simply doesn't work for this reason. All medications have their own individual cost, and the insurance company would be left with a huge variable after the insured paid their copay. It's either a little or a lot. So the first division that occurred in terms of tiers was to divide brand name and generic drugs. Actually, this worked so well that the insurance companies divided their tiers again, this time into preferred and non-preferred. This gives us 4: preferred generics, non-preferred generics, preferred brand names, and non-preferred brand names. That covers most, but there are still a few select medications that can't be covered even as non-preferred brand name drugs. The reason is that they are so astronomically expensive, and these are referred to as specialty medications. This gives us 5 tiers, and some insurance companies subdivide the specialty medications into preferred and non-preferred as well. In this case, there are 6 tiers. It gets just a little more complicated than that. Depending on claims experience, meaning specifically what a particular medication might have cost that insurance company last year, they might be tempted to move a medication out of its current category and into a new category. For example, if a non-preferred generic is costing the insurance company too much based on claims experience, they might decide to cover it as a preferred brand name drug. For this reason, many insurance companies are dropping the labels of generic and brand name drugs and are simply going to a numbering system of tiers: Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3, Tier 4, Tier 5, and sometimes Tier 6. Believe it or not, this works both ways. They sometimes lower the tier if they overestimated the cost and made out better on a particular medication than they thought they would. Insurance is a competitive industry, and yes, insurance companies do look for ways to save the customer money when they can. And the third thing that makes Part D coverage complicated is geographical differences. This one is much more simple. What's available in your geographic area is all you have that's available to you. However, if you decide to move, you will find that the entire picture is different in your new location. Drug companies divide their coverage by geographic area, so basically, this one won't affect you unless you move, but if you do move, you may have to start from scratch. Okay, blah, blah, blah. If you're still awake, let me just get to what all of this means to you. Finding the best Part D drug coverage is way more than finding the best price for premium. The premium essentially only buys you the company's formulary, which, as we know, is a listing of drugs that the company will cover, and how they will cover them in terms of tiers. What I'm saying is that it does you no good at all to find the best premium only to discover that none of your medications are covered by that formulary. So here's what you need to know. You absolutely must, and there's no escaping it, you must find out how your medications are covered under the formulary. And you must compare the total cost, which means the deductible plus the total medication cost, plus your costs in the coverage gap, plus your cost in the catastrophic phase if you are one of the people who reached the catastrophic phase, plus the annualized premium, which means 12 months of premium payments, in order to compare one plan to another. And that's why Part D is so confusing. There are solutions, and those are even more important and almost as complicated. But I just want to put together this video to make sure you understand that this is an area where you might actually seek the help of a professional. That's why I'm here. My name is Frank. Here's my information, and I hope you'll give me a call.